So the goofballs over at Fox News reacted to the fact that there wasn't a red wave. It was barely a red trickle. Democrats held the Senate. The House is razor thin at this point. We still don't know what's going to happen. The likely scenario is Republicans +1 to +5 in that area. But just nowhere near a wave. In 2010, the Tea Party wave, Republicans picked up 63 seats on Obama. Right now, we're literally talking about maybe they'll pick up 2 or 3. Just not what they were expecting. So anyway, they come out and they're talking about potential solutions. Guys, this video is so telling. Look at where their mind is at after everything that went down. Look at what they're floating as like solutions to the problem. Watch this.
You mentioned this earlier. Most of the world doesn't conduct elections the way that we have now embraced as United States.
No, they're not foolish enough to.
Yeah, this is a COVID movement that has now been retained. You know, that we are still voting, not on election day and not in person. We are moving to massive mail-in balloting as really the bulk of our election. Not yet, but we're on the path to that.
100%.
You know, now when we suggest, hey, that might not be the healthiest way to conduct a democracy, critics would say, what, you don't want more people voting? You don't want as much of your populace taking place? You know, I would ask this in return. If right now we decided, you know what we're going to do from now on? We're going to do internet voting, all right? All you have to do is click onto a website and click. Is that where we're headed? Like,
probably.
Because
that's where they'd want us to be.
Yeah, they'd love that. Listen.
And I'm just here to tell you that more doesn't mean necessarily healthy.
More doesn't mean necessarily healthy. So you wouldn't like it if every American could vote? That's a bad thing to you? More democracy is not good? Man, the things that they casually admit when they're comfy in their bubble. Holy shit.
That's right.
I mean, everybody voting. Do you think everybody is invested in this? Is everyone familiar with the candidates? Do they know the issues? I think that...
That's an amazing point. It's an amazing point. You think your average Republican voter is some sort of policy expert and can tell you intricate details about the various candidates? Look, we got a story that I'm going to get to in a minute where you had a reporter ask Trump voters at a rally, name one thing you disagree with him on policy-wise. The reaction? I'm not sure they could name one policy thing he did, period. Never mind one they disagree with. So this idea, it's such a self-own. They act like, bro, people need to be more educated on the candidates and on the policies and whatnot, and only those people should really be voting. I got bad news for you, bro. If it was only the most educated on this stuff that get to vote, first of all, it'd only be like, what, 10% of the population? And they would overwhelmingly lean left.
There is a minimal effort in going to the poll that reflects a certain level of investment and skin in the game. And I think we're going to have to ask ourselves.
So, like, look, I mean, we have to make it difficult. It should be a little bit difficult because you need to prove that you want it. No, but if something's a right, then it should be as easy as possible. To put barriers in the way, okay, then why stop there? Why make it just like, you know, why have a situation where you can go and vote and there's no line? Why shouldn't they force you to wait an hour? Hey, you want to prove you love democracy? Prove it by waiting an hour before you vote. That's the only way you can prove it. Like, there's no logic to what he's saying. It's just verbal diarrhea about how he doesn't want a lot of people voting because he knows that helps Democrats, because Democrats are more popular the more people vote.
At some point in the not too distant future, what is the threshold of investment? Is it this, a click? Because we're headed there.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that would be good. Voting is a right. Everybody who's allowed to vote, every American citizen, yeah, they should be able to vote as easily as possible. That would give us more democracy. More democracy is a good thing. Having everybody's voice heard is a good thing. We should have more democracy. I mean, almost all the direct ballot initiatives went the right way. That's a good thing. When you give people specific issues, they're intelligent about it. Yeah, I want more people voting. I want more direct democracy.
Also, this idea that we would vote, months in advance without the same information when we go to the polls. Mm-hmm. You recall with, just in 2020, how many people voted before they found out about the Hunter Biden laptop. Now, granted, the media and big tech suppressed that story, a very important story. They
shouldn't have suppressed it. It was wrong. It was factual information. I'm against censorship as a matter of principle, but the idea that that would have swung the election to Donald Trump is pure cope. Pure cope. Biden ended up winning by like 7 million votes. It was over 300 electoral college votes. And you think the Hunter Biden laptop would have changed that? People were voting against Donald Trump more than they were voting for Joe Biden. He was mishandling COVID and the economy was falling off of a cliff. The Hunter Biden laptop, if I'm being kind, maybe it would have flipped like 50,000 votes. But again, Biden won by 7 million. So no, there's no evidence to suggest I would have changed everything.
We know as our president is about to meet with Xi Jinping, and Chinese intelligence knows exactly what's on that laptop, even if some Americans at that time didn't. But that said, you know, there were still the #1 Google search was how do I change my vote? Right after that story came out, even though it was suppressed and people got it. So
yeah, the #1 Google search. And how many searches were there? And they're, you know, they make this point about Fetterman too, like, oh, people voted before they saw Fetterman's debate performance. Pure cope. Fetterman is going to end up winning by 5 or 6 points. This wouldn't have made a difference. This is pure cope. They're trying to deflect from the fact that Republicans are unpopular. They are not doing a good job. They don't have a policy agenda that the American people like. Their candidates are insane. They're authoritarian. They want to not only throw out Roe v. Wade, they want to do a national abortion ban. They question the results of the election way after it, and you don't want these people with positions of power to determine what happens in the next election. Embrace the fact that your candidates suck and you guys need to change course. But they can't do it. They can't do it because it's Fox News.
People should go in with the same information. I believe that it's not about necessarily putting in the effort. I think there is just a beautiful civic unity moment. We talk about how divided we are. Let's have a national holiday on Election Day. Let's let people, as you said yesterday, let them vote that whole weekend and then up to Election Day.
Having Election Day as a national holiday is an idea the left has been calling for forever, and guess who's been blocking it? I'll wait.
The weekend before, let's use paper ballots. Let's have ID cards like they do in Mexico and every.
Okay. Paper ballots, good idea. Definitely in favor of it. The whole ID card thing, everybody needs to understand this. This is super important, okay? The whole reason they call for, we need ID, is because the whole process that you go through to get the ID is a roadblock for many poor voters. And so I know intuitively that idea sounds, what do you mean? It's common sense. Like, yeah, you just have to, show your ID. If you got to show your ID for buying alcohol, why wouldn't you have to show it for voting? Well, some people don't have the idea that they want them to have, right, in order to do this. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to get it. So it's just putting roadblocks in the way to try to suppress the vote. Even if you do it 1% or 2%, that could have a big effect on the election. Look, automatic voter registration should be happening in this country. We don't even have that. So there's already too many roadblocks. Do the automatic voter registration instead of making people go out of their way to register to vote. That's crazy. If you're an American citizen, when you hit the right age, you should be able to vote, period. So it's all about just put more things in their way.
Another country that takes their election seriously, and let's have paper ballots so we can track it and feel confident about it and feel confident.
No problem with paper ballots, but again, even under the system that they're calling for, if Republicans lost, they would question it because that's what they do.
In our democracy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when I was deployed to Iraq, our job was to secure elections in Iraq, where people were trying to blow up polling stations, right? Al-Qaeda was trying to blow up polling stations. You know what Iraq did? Remember the purple finger?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The purple finger was, I voted once, and I can prove I voted already, and if I've got ink on my finger, I can't vote again. Simple is better when it comes to elections.
But the implication here is that we have mass rampant voter fraud in the country where people are voting multiple times. That is simply not happening. Every empirical study on this says that's not happening, but they bring it up like it's an issue because, again, they are coping. They cannot say, hey, man, our team needs to look in the mirror to figure out what we're doing wrong. They can't say it, so it's just all cope. A whole boatload of rationalizations to be like, oh, man, something's not right with the system because the fucking guy who murdered 329 puppies in experiments and lives in New Jersey but ran in Pennsylvania and who owns 10 houses and is an out-of-touch carpetbagger elitist, that guy didn't win. Something must be wrong with the system.
The civic engagement of that moment was really significant. Will, what you're not saying, I want less people to vote. That's not the point. What you're saying is...
He literally did say that earlier in the clip. That is exactly what he said. There is no taking it back now. Oh, you're not saying that because that would be insane. No, he did say that. And yes, it is insane.
Voting should not be as simple as ordering an Amazon package.
Why not? Why not? If the end goal is get as many people who can legally vote to vote, get as many Americans as possible to the polls to vote, then why wouldn't you want that? They don't want that again. There's a general rule of American politics. The higher the turnout, the more likely Democrats win. The lower the turnout, the more likely Republicans win. Because Republicans generally view voting as this civic duty that they do come hell or high water no matter what, even if they don't like the candidate or whatever. And on the Democratic side, there's a lot of people who are sort of flirting with being anti-politics and not being involved, and I'm not really inspired by this person or whatever, and so they don't vote. But the more people who vote, the more likely the Democrats win. That's why they're coping hard and giving these solutions.
Because there's a lot more at stake with what you should be considering when you cast your ballot. Everyone get access to that information, and then whether it's a weekend or whatever it is, let's all go together to the polls so that we can all learn together what the result is, and most importantly, have faith in that result.
Yeah, the only reason people on your side don't have faith in the result is because Donald Trump has so doubt about the result, and conspiracy theorists online have so doubt about the results, even though there's no good reason to do that. Bill Barr was super dismissive. He looked into it, and he's like, this is nonsense. There's nothing here. Nothing would have flipped the election. So look, my advice to these clowns, have the Republican Party actually argue, hey, mail-in voting is not a scam. It's something you should do, and because look, it's a mathematical thing, right? If a Democrat effectively has 2 weeks to get their vote in or whatever, because they believe in mail-in voting, and the mail-ins skew Democratic because Trump has been shitting on the mail-ins, just have you guys start pushing the mail-ins and saying it's not a scam, you should do it, and this is how we'll have a better chance of winning. If you actually were interested in solutions, you would say that, and then you can also turn around and say, and maybe Republicans should adjust course, because obviously what we're doing is not very popular right now. Rid ourselves of Trump, rid ourselves of the election denialism, maybe stop going authoritarian on social issues like banning abortion, and adjust course, maybe help working people a little bit, and then maybe we'll win. They can't do it. It's not possible for them to be self-critical. They don't have it in them. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.